Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bloodhouse, the show where we talk about art house horror movies. I'm Joshua Conkle.
And I am Drusilla Adeline. Hello, Josh. How are you doing this week?
Hi, I'm okay. Thank you very much. Nothing really to report. I've just been, doing all the things, writing, working out,
A busy
cooking.
little bee.
Yeah, playing Elden Ring.
Still, 1 week
Yeah.
later, you're still
I
in trend.
know. It's a very time consuming. What about you? What have you been up to? What have you been?
I mean, again, I am plucking away at work and all of those things, but I've at least been like getting back into a good rhythm post starting a whole new job and all this hectic stuff with that.
Sure.
Of like finally being able to get back to my steady diet of like a movie a day.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Seen
to
anything good?
think that I interrupted that for a month, I can't
Yeah.
believe. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I finally saw Worst Person in the World.
Oh, I'm dying to see that. What did you think?
I loved it. I saw
Can't
it
wait.
at a theater in West Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
at 10 p.m. I was the only person there.
Perfect.
I was so happy, especially going to a theater like in COVID America, especially post California repealing indoor mask mandates.
Yeah.
I've been anxious about that. And so
Sure.
going to a theater and being like, wait, there's no one here. I can take my mask off and just eat a bunch of popcorn for a while.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But to the point of how good the movie is, I didn't touch my popcorn. I was riveted.
Wow.
It like so good, so funny. I mean, it's a rom-com, so it's very fitting to what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
And it has a kind of like very relatably anarchic and vicious take on a rom-com.
Yay.
That I really, really relate to. The soundtrack is a delight, but more than anything, I really love the style and the visual language and the like cutting of the movie, because I feel like for the past 20 years-ish, no, more like 10, 15 years-ish, we've been in like this kind of haze of movies, especially internationally, where it's all been about like bring it all down, focus on
Yeah.
realism, slow it down, like strip everything back and just focus on all of these little things. And as much as I love like, you know, all the like Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach indies and like Celine Sciamma's movies like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, like I don't have that taste.
Yeah.
Normally. Like something really has to go above and beyond to like get me into that world and appreciate it. And so like, you know, Lesbian Painters is like gonna do it. But most like general like art house films from, you know, France and Germany and Japan and all these things that are doing stuff like that, I'm like, you really gotta sell me on it. And so this movie being like, no, fuck it, we're gonna be over stylized in every way we can, and it is going to put you more in the character of Julie, the lead, and you're going to relate more to these characters because we're being so wildly over the top with the storytelling. It made me so happy. It made me so gleeful just to be in a movie that was having that much fun with itself, even when it gets serious in parts. There is a scene where a character is listening to music on headphones, and air drumming. And it's at a very, very important point in the movie, like narratively and tonally, and it is done so cool, so fun, so gleefully that it like completely changes. And it's such a small moment, but it's given so much importance by the filmmaking that it really like gives so much, I don't know, ease and relatability to what would otherwise be a very tough part of the film. And there's so many little spots of that where they just toss in these little flourishes here and there, that are just detached from anything. And it's just, you know, different ways of using poetic license and art in filmmaking. And I love it. I love it so much. I highly recommend it. There's a lot of bodily function in the movie.
Oh, great. Okay.
So it might be a little too lowbrow for some.
Not for me. I love a good fart or boob or, like
Yeah,
that sort of Yorgos Lanthimos body nastiness. I'm into that. I
it's
really
a
am intrigued
delight.
by that movie. The title alone is really intriguing to me. The past few years when I feel like the world has gotten, in culture, I guess more specifically, has gotten very earnest in the past
Hmm.
generation to a degree that I find a little insufferable. And so I've been really longing for work that's more ironic, maybe a little bit meaner, especially if it's a comedy with unlikable characters. That's what I love the most. And speaking of like weird takes on rom-coms, like one of my favorite shows of all time is You're the Worst, that like little scene FX show, which was just about, it's a rom-com about two terrible people who are extremely mentally ill and horrible for each other. Like that's what I want. I don't want Ted Lasso. I actually really like Ted
I
Lasso,
love Ted Lasso.
but I don't like the more sentimental it becomes, the worse the show gets, and the less funny it gets for me personally.
I think the kind of move towards earnestness has been pretty recent, and
Yeah.
it has been in direct contrast to like years and years of like irony poisoned both media and like internet exposure.
Oh, see, I think it's been longer than that because I see people tweet like, "Ugh, I'm so sick of irony," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? What irony? Where? Point me to it," because actually miss it. Like as a person who came of age in the '90s, which was like the most ironic time,
I mean,
even
we
more
got the
so than the
song.
2000s. Yeah, exactly. Um, Everything when I was a teenager was ironic. The shirts I mean, like everything was ironic, and then that got exhausting in the 2000s. But I actually find it in a weird way to be more genuine than the like cloying earnestness and sentimentality of culture now. So I've been really longing for it. Not to say that movie is ironic. I haven't seen it yet, but
I think
yeah.
what Worst Person in the World does is, and this is going to sound so bizarre and batshit, but I promise I can back it up, is in terms of its tone in that way, is maybe kind of an inversion of like Frank Capra.
Hmm.
So the way that like we like always look back at Frank Capra movies like It's a Wonderful Life and stuff like that as like there was this slang term at the time of the Capricorn. They're so melodramatic and over the top and over sentimental.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure a lot of people from a contemporary lens look at Worst Person in the World as being like so ironic and so like mean spirited for part of it, and very funny. However, I think both of those are overlooking other aspects of them
Yeah.
because Capra's movies are like snotty and like really like vicious takedowns of capitalism and American society. Like Meet John Doe is like really, really, really like vicious while
Yeah.
also having that sentimentality like running at the same time. And I think those two things, like in concert, are beautiful. And that is like the height of a lot of filmmaking, like John Waters stuff in the 90s, I
I
think.
was just gonna say, like, there's maybe a false idea that these things are in conflict with each other when they don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Earnestness is not like the binary opposite of irony. Like, I think Hairspray, for example, is one of the most ironic, kitschy movies ever made, and I think you'd be really hard pressed to suggest that it's not a genuine and sweet movie at the same time. So I don't know. We're going on a tangent now, but I'm really excited to see that movie.
Yeah, and I think it does both. And I think anything that just does one of those notes, that's when it feels either cloying or annoying
Mm-hmm.
to either degrees of the spectrum. I think nailing both of those in a way that's snotty and in your face, but also like is being genuine
Yeah.
is like really important. And there's not enough art being made like that in the world, I think. So I think
Yeah.
it's very good. And I think everyone should see it if you have the ability and the access.
Yeah. I'd love to see that. I'm going to see that soon.
Apart from playing Elden Ring, have you watched anything? Have your eyeballs gleaned?
I did actually watch something cool on Shudder. I watched this thing called The Runner. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have. A
There's a
friend of mine did the
cool.
poster.
Oh, the poster's great. So
Hmm.
there's this really cool music duo called Boy Harsher that I like a lot, and I've been following them for some time. And it's a duo, like I said, and it's very 80s goth synth inspired. It's all synthesizer and beat, and drum machine, and it's very gothy and very 80s influenced, and just like very, very cool band. So they made this 40-minute long movie called The Runner, which is like sort of narrative, but it's also really like a visual album for their album, which is called The Runner. So it's a little bit like a gothy version of Beyonce's Lemonade or something. Like it's a series of lightly narrative music videos to their album. But basically it's a woman who's running, as the title suggests, through what looks to be upstate New York, through the countryside. And she stops at trailer parks and seedy motels. But she seems to be some sort of vampire or succubus, because she keeps like murdering men and she has fangs at moments. The music is really cool, so it's worth a listen on a streaming service that isn't Spotify. Yeah, really cool. Boy Harsher on Shudder. It's like 40 minutes long. Really wonderful.
I need to watch it. Like, selling it as goth lemonade really is like an ideal selling point to me.
I think you'd really like it. The aesthetic is really cool.
Yeah, and I need to also start listening to them because I need more gothy synths in my life.
Yeah, they're a really great entrance to a rabbit hole of contemporary gothy synth music. I recommend them. I think you like them.
There's a lot of amazing, great gothy synth bands out right now. I think Sellers are amazing.
Yeah.
So
that's The Runner on Shudder. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that or The Worst Person in the World. We are here to talk about the 1999 Japanese horror film by Takashi Miike, Audition.
オーディション息子に言われたんです。最近職遅れてるんで裁判でもしたがってあさみ
Drusilla, you were very angry at me for choosing this movie. How come? For why?
Okay. Yeah. So I was like, cool. We'll have an episode coming up, and we can have like free choice between us. Josh, what do you want to do? And you were like, what if we did Audition? And I was at work and I got that text, and that like ruined my day.
But you like this movie, though. Oh, go on. I don't want to interrupt, but I know that you like this movie.
Do I?
Do you? Oh my gosh!
Don't know.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
Tell us your story.
This might be the first movie that we've discussed on the podcast that I might not like.
Okay.
So, there's a very long history I have with this movie. So I first heard about this movie when I must have been in like middle school. I was at a friend's house on Halloween, and like AMC was playing one of those like, talking ahead like the 100 scariest horror movies, like 2-hour blocks of something like that, where they get like Eli Roth and John Landis to sit there and be like, wow, that scared me so much. Can you imagine that thing that happened?
Yeah.
And they show the parts of these movies that they can show on like, 6 p.m. Cable. And then like cut away just as it's about to get nasty. And so I heard about Audition there, and I always saw the images of her in the like leather smock holding up the needle and stuff like that. And I was like, yep, all of that image alone, that sounds awful and horrifying. Good God. And so later I would eventually get into trying out that what would become torture porn subgenre, seeing the Saw movies, or at least the first couple, seeing the Hostel movies, which I hate to say at like
you're a defender of.
At the time I was a defender of. I haven't seen them since. But I have seen Hostel more times than I would like to admit.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Which, fun fact, Takashi Miike is in Hostel.
Oh, is he?
As himself, as one of the participants in the torture business.
That's pretty baller.
Yeah.
I don't like that movie, and I didn't finish it, but that's cool.
He plays like a satisfied customer, like leaving at the end.
That's great.
Which is so funny and so fucked up in retrospect. Especially
I feel like he would do that. There's a world where Takashi Miike would have done that, but go on.
It's a really nice homage because, I mean, in retrospect, Hostel is very much like would not exist without Audition.
Yeah.
So I didn't finally watch Audition until well after college. It was on Shudder, and I was like, cool, I'll put on Audition. I've heard about it for years. I'm finally ready to like give this one a shot. I'm in the headspace. Nothing can stop me now. And I got halfway through, and if you've seen Audition before, the first half or even 3/4 of the movie are just like a rom-com.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, really, yeah.
It's a widowed man who talks to a friend of his who makes documentaries about trying to get it back out there because his son thinks he's not doing well.
Yeah.
So he tries to meet a new woman, and his friend says, I know what we'll do. We'll hold a fake casting audition so that you can meet the perfect woman.
Well, wait, I have to interject here because I feel like that's a judgment that people place on the movie. It's not a fake audition because they are making a real movie.
Okay.
And so his friend just says, hey, I'm making this movie. I need to audition a lot of young women for it. You can sit in and pick your future girlfriend. So it is problematic, but it's not as problematic as that. Yeah.
Okay. Fair. Because we're going to get into a lot of sticky discussions of
yes,
sexuality and gender and intention and things like that.
Yeah. Trigger warning for anything that you could imagine under the sun.
This is our most trigger warning episode, probably.
yes.
So I got about to that point to right when the movie, what I would later find out when the movie changes a bit.
Yeah.
And something between Shudder or my Wi-Fi at the time, but the stream crapped out and it could not play title, and I was not able to finish the film. And I was really disappointed because I was like, I know this has this legendary reputation, but all I saw was like an hour of like dates and like quirky little rom-com like fishing with my son moments. And I was like,
right,
all right, fine. And so that was kind of like a joke I would tell. I mean, it really happened, but it was like a joke I would tell at parties and stuff to people. Like, yeah, I've seen Audition. Cute little rom-com, huh? I didn't finish it. To which everyone get very upset with me. Like, very angry. And they would then, like, in lurid detail, describe to me what I missed. And both out of kind of a state of petulance of, like, well, I saw enough. And, like, I'm going to be the person who only saw that part of Audition and never saw the rest. And also out of, like, I grew out of my interest in exploring those torture porn things. And after having seen the stills and having all of those later scenes very, like, descriptively described to me many times, I kind of reached the point where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to finish Audition. I don't have a need in my life to watch the rest of that. I get it. I don't need to do it. Fine. And Josh texted me just the word audition. And I was so upset because that means I'm going to rewatch the whole thing and sit through some of the grossest things ever made. And I didn't even know about the dog bowl.
Yes, the dog bowl. To all of our doesthedogdie.com people, the dog dies in Audition. There's a really cute viciously. Jack Russell. Yeah. Jack Russell
they show you the dead dog.
Gengu is his name, and he definitely dies. I have a similar history.
I was gonna say
it's similar, kind of. This movie came out in 1999, which was my senior year of high school, going into freshman year of college. So I feel like I must have heard about it pretty quickly in college. And I didn't see it because everyone said, it has a reputation and as being really gruesome. So for 20 years, I did not see it. I did not see this movie until 2020 when we were stuck in the deepness of pandemic. And I started to watch a lot of things that I had missed or put off. And this was one of them. And what I was expecting was something more akin to, a human centipede, or something like that, something that was really, really transgressive and gruesome and icky. And I don't have a judgment. I just want to be clear. I'm not a torture porn person. I've famously never seen any of the Saw movies, which I want to correct this year, because when those movies were becoming popular, I just wasn't interested in them. And I have no moral judgment against them, but just aesthetically for me, that's not it. But anyways, that's what I was expecting Audition to be. So when I watched it, I was really surprised by how thoughtful it is and how elegant. And to your point earlier, the third act of the movie is really what people are talking about when they're talking about the reputation and the violence, because the first act and the second act, which is the bulk of the movie, is sort of a slow burn, gothic, romantic sort of tale. So yeah, I mean, I guess you've already sort of said it, but just because of the tradition on the podcast of saying this is synopsis, there's a man who's a widow. His wife has died. He has a teenage son. His son says, get back out there. So the man starts to try to find a partner. He's friends with this filmmaker who's having auditions. So he sits in and he sees Asami, who's a 24-year-old beautiful woman, very mysterious and meek. He really likes her. She doesn't get the role, but he calls her and asks her out on a date, to which she says yes. And so they start to have problematic age gap relationship. And it very quickly turns out to be that she is not who or perhaps what she seems. And it gets dicier and weirder from there. Yeah, I really liked this movie. I was surprised by how much I liked it. I think it's thoughtful. I think the writing is good. I think the direction is pretty brilliant. I like Takashi Miike, everything I've seen by him, which isn't a lot, granted, but I've liked everything that I've seen. The third act is extremely violent and hard to watch, but I guess I had set myself up for something worse. So I was genuinely frightened by it, but I didn't find it unwatchable. When I watched Human Centipede, I left the room and didn't finish the movie because I found it so disgusting. This isn't that for me. Yeah.
It was a harder watch for me. I will preface, so this is going to be an interesting discussion. I will preface this by saying, Takashi Miike is an amazing filmmaker. I've also seen like a good number of his things. I love The Happiness of the Katakuri. I had the pleasure of doing a little bit of work on the US release of First Love, which, I mean, I don't think any of my stuff got used, but I mean, it was fun to work on that. I've seen a number of his Yakuza films from this era. And I still need to see more of his horror films from this era, but they're nuts. And, to his credit, all of the rom-com stuff is shot and executed and cut exactly like a rom-com.
Yeah.
And it is beautifully done, brilliantly done. And the tone and everything like that is perfect. And then when we go into the third act of the film, which is kind of precipitated by a bit of an investigation follow as he's kind of trying to find her and checking up on her.
Yeah, at a certain point, she disappears and he wants to go looking for her. So he starts investigating her.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a mystery narrative there in which the tone in the visual language starts to shift. We get more canted Dutch angles. We get more lurid lighting set pieces. And then we get sent pretty hard, pretty fast into a tumbling, surreal hellscape dream sequence.
Yeah.
Which stylistically is brilliant. The way in which Miike both plays with lighting, editing, and then bringing characters in and out of temporal spaces and scenes, and then also going as far as to change Asami through from some shots she'll switch suddenly to his dead wife, and then she'll switch to a teenage version of herself, and then she'll switch to a child version of herself.
Or sometimes become his female assistant from work or his woman housekeeper. She becomes all the different women in his life. Yeah.
And this is in the midst of sexual acts. This is in the midst of horrifying torture scenes. And it's done very intentionally. Yeah. And it's done in ways that both reveal more about the character of Asami and the lead character, who I am not going to attempt to pronounce his name because I'm going to butcher it.
It's Ayama.
Thank you. I'm not great with pronunciations, especially when it comes to Japanese names, and I tried to do my best to be as respectful as I can be. So the filmmaking in this final sequence is brilliant. Like, it is truly masterful. It's truly amazing. Especially when you then take into account, like, Takashi Miike has made well over 100 films, and he typically shoots his movies in like 2 weeks. Audition is like the rarity of he shot it in 3 weeks. Just nuts.
That's like
nuts.
Really insane.
But even the way the filmmaking in the beginning half, with all the rom-com elements of them like going to a bar, and the way that like a waiter shakes a cocktail glass in the background, feels very natural and fluid in that side of the movie, and then it comes back around later in a way that has much more sinister connotations to it, and the filmmaking has barely changed.
Yeah.
I think all of that is very, very, very brilliant. However, this movie goes so far in those final segments in so many different ways, to the point that, like, this is so small and so subtle, but I think it speaks to a lot of the gruesomeness of this movie. There was a character who is a ballet instructor who is in a wheelchair and has prosthetic feet. They somehow decided and designed the scariest looking prosthetic feet possible for this man.
Yeah.
They are so crude and have like flat boards on the bottom of them.
They're like Frankenstein sewn together a little bit in parts. It looks,
It is so like over the top, needlessly gothic and horrifying, just to add little like touches and flavors of things.
Yeah, but that's not bad. Are you suggesting that that's bad?
Oh, I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying that's a good indication of like, if you think something that simple is pushed that far,
I see.
The stuff that's even farther is pushed further than you expect.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of heavier topics to get into with this, and I feel like we can't.
Well, let's go through some of the beats in order and see where we get to, because we can start easy. So the opening beat of this movie is a flashback where the mom is in her deathbed in the hospital. The dad is witnessing her pass away, and the son, this little boy, comes in with this demented looking sculpture. I'm not even sure what this was, but I made a note of it because I was like, it may be like a volcano thing for school, but it looks crazy. It looks like I wrote Bop It, that toy that's like Bop It, twist it.
I remember Bop It. Oh,
it's like so many different colors and shapes, and he's like, he comes in with this, I don't know what else to call it, but like art installation or sculpture, and he just sadly says, "Oh, I made this for mom," and then she dies, and that's her death scene. But I was like, that is I don't know what that was meant to be, but it is the weirdest thing to ever bring a woman in a hospital bed. Not chocolates or flowers or no, it's like, here's my Celia Dietz from Beetlejuice sculpture for my sick mother. It's so weird. I don't really think there's anything else to say about it unless you think differently, but I was like, what is this? And I couldn't let it go by without commenting on it.
Well, just imagine thinking the last thing that you see before you die is a sculpture like that, just out of nowhere.
That would be the final nail in the coffin, perhaps. Like, like, all right, that's enough.
That's Bye. What did it. He killed his mother with his bad art.
So anyways, she passes away, and we skip forward in time. The son is now a teenager, and he says to his dad, "Dad, you seem sad. You're starting to look old. Maybe you should think about getting remarried." At which point he goes to his friend, this filmmaker, and sort of says like, "Oh, I'm sort of looking for," and he has a list. It's like a Mary Poppins ideal nanny list. Like, she must be kind, she must play piano, like all of these sorts of things. And then his friend, the filmmaker, is like, well, I'm making this movie. If I can get funding, we have to audition girls. You should come along and ask them. So then we get to the actual audition, which is demented. So they don't have these girls. First of all, these girls have to write personal essays instead of have a resume with them. So it's like, if you're an actor, you know, you're driving all around the city every day. You're going to multiple auditions. If you had to write a personal essay for everything that you auditioned for, that would be a big pain in the ass. So, he's before they get to the auditions, our main character has this stack of photos and personal essays, and he comes across the one for Asami, who's our female lead. And so at the day at the audition, there are 30 girls, and unfortunately for him, she's number 30. So we are quote unquote treated to a quick snapshot of all these auditions, sort of like Waiting for Guffman style, because they all do weird, crazy things. Like a woman just takes her top off, another does like weird clog dancing, and then the questions the men that Ayama and his friend ask these women are like anything from "What does your father do for a living?" to "Do you work as a sex worker?" or just like so insane and demented and inappropriate. And it lasts a good long time.
It reminds me of, have you seen the Ewan McGregor movie Shallow Grave?
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of the beginning of that, where they're interviewing prospective roommates, they're just like outright fucking with them.
Yeah. It's like in movies where there's a super cut of someone going on a series of bad dates. Like it has that sort of energy. Like some of these women are demented. One is crying for no reason. You know, it's like they're just all over the map, and none of them are right. And finally, we get to Asami, who is very meek. She says that she was a ballet dancer, but she hurt her hip at age 18 and had to stop, and has sort of been aimless. Clearly she's not a movie star, and she's not going to be the lead in this. But it underlines Ayama's, you know, affection for her in this weird way, because she seems so fragile and meek and beautiful. And
demure.
That's the word. He's really horny for it. And by the way, he's like 50 and she's 24. So there's that too.
Yeah.
So he goes home that night. He calls her and asks her out. They go on a date. It goes well. But his friend is like, I have a weird vibe about this girl. So his friend, the filmmaker, starts to investigate her and finds out that some of the things that she claimed seem to not be true. And he says to our lead, just don't call her again for a while. And then we see, you know, like there's the old trope of like the lonely woman sitting by the phone. We get the audition version of that, which is literally Asami in an empty apartment, no furniture, sitting on the floor, hair down like The Ring, staring at nothing, literally for days waiting for the phone to ring, days and days and days not moving. And in the background, there's a big sack. And when I tweeted about watching this movie, everyone was like, the sack, because one of the biggest scares of the movie is so simple. It's just her sitting by the phone waiting for it to ring, and then suddenly the sack moves. So there's obviously somebody inside of it, and that's it. And eventually the phone rings. Eventually he can't put it off anymore. He wants her so bad that he calls her. And when the phone starts to ring, you just see her smile. So you kind of get the idea that she's, you know, maybe some kind of succubus monster kind of thing, and she's been waiting for this. What did you think of the character, of this setup, of this scene?
It's interesting. I do love the like serial killer apartment of like, it's empty. The walls are like peeling.
Yeah.
There is a single black rotary telephone on the ground.
Yeah. It's very aesthetic.
And a big burlap sack.
Yeah.
Which, considering the time in which this movie came out, and the state of like horror at the time, it reminds me of the South Korean movie A Tale of Two Sisters, which also has a sack.
That movie is really scary.
That movie is super scary, and I love it so much.
Yeah, I love that movie.
And so, you know, sacks are a good theme in films, always. Again, like Waiting for Guffman. It's like a Hitchcock movie where, like, you know, someone sticks you in a burlap sack and sticks you in the back of a car and you just meet people.
Yeah, it's true. And sacks are really scary now that we're talking about it, because it just made me think about how, personally, I think the best Jason and the scariest Friday the 13th is the second one, where he has a burlap sack instead of the hockey mask. And I'll defend that to the death.
I mean, Town That Dreaded Sundown?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So you heard it here first. Sacks are scary.
Sacks bad. Bloodhouse.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think the kind of depiction of her as like the thing that makes her catch his eye is that she's the like meek little demure girl.
Yeah.
And what it says about middle-aged Japanese men, that that's what he wants.
Yeah.
He wants a meek demure girl with no aspirations or intentions in her life other than to be wifed up. And she has some artistic knowledge or previous ambition, but not current ambition, to distract from, you know, wife and motherhood. She has to be as like simple and meek as possible. It reminds me a lot of Gothic literature.
Yes. I mean, the whole first, before you get to the third act, this all really does feel like Gothic literature. That's the tone I would say that it has, more than rom-com. What do you think about this movie as like a feminist film?
So it's so interesting because this movie is very frequently labeled as a feminist film or as a very misogynistic film. And it gets both of them, I think, in equal measure. I think maybe with time it's gotten more of a feminist read. But I was very interested to see an interview with Takashi Miike where he very out loud was like, it's not feminist. Which, okay, dude. But the interesting thing to think about is that feminism, as we know it from like a Western perspective, especially in the 90s, really didn't correlate to Japan and Japanese culture at the time. And so, you know, where there's a lot of like history of, you know, sexual assault and abuse of women in horror films for years and years and years and years and years in America, it was always seen as like a rather taboo thing and as a rather like shocking thing. Whereas in Japanese cinema for years and years and years and years, this was very like accepted.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a culturally very different thing in terms of like the oppression and repression of women in Japan for many years, and the way that culture focuses on family is very different in the way that it treats gender.
Yeah.
So this movie comes out of that, but also out of the Takashi Miike shock school of, I'm just gonna throw some fucking shit at you. You decide what it is later. And so it's interesting because this movie does a few things in which we are kind of immediately set up with this kind of male gaze of these two men like rooting through women to find the perfect girl, which is very ishy.
Yes.
And like meeting them through deceit.
Yes, but see, I don't think that the movie, my read on it is that the movie is not endorsing their behavior. I think the movie is in judgment of their behavior.
Agreed. Agreed. But I think the movie is also in judgment of her behavior.
Well, she's literally a monster.
Yeah.
But the reason I find it, like, I think it's a feminist film, and I hear you about what Takashi Miike said about it, but it's sort of beside the point what he says about it. What's really important is the way that people receive it over time, to your point.
Agreed.
To me, in some ways, this is like a women's revenge film. You know, not exactly like I Spit on Your Grave or one of those kinds of like true women's revenge films, but it has that energy about it because I feel like she's actually not this demure person. She's putting on this act to trap him because she sits in judgment of the way that men treat women and the way that she's been treated. So I don't know. I actually thought it was like a feminist film.
I can see that aspect to it. I just find the way in which the movie treats her past trauma as like an inciting incident to these very like gleefully violent acts that she performs in the end of the film to kind of be slapdash and not in the best taste. In a way that I don't feel is exactly feminist, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people talk about Audition and Asami as being a very like avenging angel
Yeah, that's what I
figure akin
took
to
from
like
it.
Ms. 45
Yeah, that's
or
what I
something
took
like
from it.
that. But I think the difference is a little bit more that Ms. 45 is something like, you know, there is an outburst of violence mixed in with grief at the certain thing, and it's very tragic at the same time.
Yeah.
And the film views these characters as being tragic and the vengeance that they seek as being deserved. Whereas in Audition, it's a little bit more like this is a monster that you should fear that takes pleasure and enjoyment in what she does. And she takes pleasure and enjoyment in this and is incapable of stopping this because she is a broken and traumatized person, and no one is good and everyone is bad, and this is doomed to continue to happen.
Yeah.
And I think because of that stance, it is neither a feminist nor misogynistic film. I think it kind of eschews both by focusing more on the shock elements of the narrative and, you know, justifying everyone's actions at the same time. And the film ends with the two former lovers on the floor, in different rooms.
But they can see each other.
They can see each other, and they're making eye contact through like a doorway. And there's a very longing look in each of their eyes. You know, kind of harkening back to, and she repeats the lines from one of their dates.
Right, she's saying her like
I can't
tropey,
stop smiling.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to call me, but she's like dying with a broken neck as she says this. So it feels a little bit like it has the vibe of like Stepford Wives, the machine, you know, the robot is breaking down. It has that feeling about it. And to that end, I wasn't clear if like Asami rather is a human being or if she's some sort of monster or something supernatural. It kind of could go either way for me.
I mean, I think she's a human being. But I don't know. There is kind of a gothic sweetness in them still making eyes at each other.
Yeah, it's a
in
very
that moment.
romantic ending in a twisted way. I mean, it is sort of a love story.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there is something to this idea that, you know, loving someone comes with their baggage, but I don't know. I think that it sets up all of these ideas and that it starts to play with some of these ideas, and then it really just kind of leans into them for shock. And this is where we're gonna have to dig into the trauma of it all.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the giant trigger warning of the entire episode where we talk about child abuse.
Yes.
So she was like severely abused as a child by multiple people.
Yeah.
And some of it we get told and some of it we get shown. And one of her abusers is a stepfather who couldn't walk, and it's implied that that's the ballet teacher.
Yeah.
Who very viciously abused her with like a hot poker.
Yes.
And one of the worst areas to apply such a device. And we are treated to images of her as a child being forced through this.
Yeah.
And as we see throughout the film, she this, you know, ballet instructor / stepfather is wheelchair bound and does not have the use of his feet, and he has the prosthetic feet that we mentioned previously. And one of the very first things that she does when she begins torturing our main character is to gleefully and with a gigantic grin on her face sever his feet with a wire.
It's so weird when she's torturing him too, because she's saying, kitty, 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 which apparently means deeper, deeper, deeper in what can only be described as like the worst acupuncture. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. The worst acupuncture session of your life.
Yeah.
It's presented like she's treated as like a cutesy, almost like Harajuku girl as she's torturing this man with needles and wires and saying kitty, 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 which is Japanese for deeper, deeper, deeper.
Yeah. So on the one hand, we get her like recreating her trauma by like starting, like kind of turning him into her abusive stepfather. And then on the other hand, we have the sack, which we come to find out includes a man.
She's removed some of his fingers, his tongue, and one of his feet, or both of his feet, and an ear, or something like that. And he's been living in a sack in her apartment, and all he gets to eat is her vomit out of a dog bowl.
Mm-hmm. And then the thing that pushes it even further and brings it back into the childhood trauma is that as he's, again, gleefully, I was going to say lapping up, then I realized, nope, he doesn't have a tongue.
Yeah. Oh, God, it's so vile. It's so vile.
Gleefully consuming her vomit, which I will now take a little aside to say that Takashi Miike claims that was the actress's actual vomit.
No way.
I don't believe that she was a very method actor and that he did not tell her to, but she actually threw up in that bowl. Which,
no way.
No, I don't buy it.
I'm starting to think that Takashi Miike might be a little bit of an edgelord.
A little bit? No, he's very Lars von Trier.
Yeah, I had a hard time with that. I actually spent all day yesterday making a pot roast in the crock pot, and so I was eating a pot roast during this movie. It was so gross. It felt like I had swallowed a bag of golf balls or something. Like, it just was so disgusting.
Anyway, in the midst of this scene, we suddenly are treated to Asami as a small girl looking down on her tortured man eating her vomit out of a dog bowl, and she begins petting him like a dog.
Yeah.
And there is this weird, I shouldn't say weird because from a medical standpoint, kind of correlation between her inner child and the trauma that she has gone through and the, very demented adult that she has grown into being, kind of wrapped into one, into her kind of recreating these traumatic events in her life with more power and more agency, and her like intentionally recreating them with pleasure to kind of like feed that inner child. And then we also in the middle of all of this are treated to another kind of nightmarish depiction of that stepfather coming to attack her with a hot poker again, but she's an adult now, and she then voluntarily sits down in front of him and spreads her legs, inviting him to repeat the action. Also, in the midst of her cutting off our lead's foot, again with the wire, which we get many, many shots of her moving it back and forth like she's flossing.
Like Hereditary, when she cuts off her own head with the wire, it's that.
Yeah, with blood spreading everything. We then start to cut back to the stepfather in his wheelchair, in his dimly lit ballet studio, masturbating.
Yeah.
Which...
God, when you say all this out loud, it seems really bad.
I mean...
it is.
It's not great.
But to me, it still sounds worse than it actually feels. And
I think it feels worse than it actually sounds.
And I will say, I don't know, I feel a little tricky saying this, but the hot pokers he uses to burn her inner thighs, and we're making it sound like something else.
we don't know how much else there is.
Well, we see it. We see him burning. Well, that's true. I guess we don't know what happens off the frame, and it's not like it's better to burn someone than her thighs. I mean, it is actually better. But I don't know. I'm getting into a really tricky place. Yeah, I don't know. It is torture porn, and I guess to me, it probably does lead into those movies by Eli Roth and everyone else. But to me, the torture aspect of it feels earned. It feels artistic. Whether this movie is like problematic in some way or not, I don't sit in judgment of that. And I feel like, you know, my kind of take is like where film is concerned, sort of nothing is problematic. Like everything is allowed to some degree. Yeah, I just don't really have anything to say about that aspect, which I'm sure other people would have a lot to say. It is indeed a very hard watch. I do want to just make things light again before we leave this episode, because during the crazy audition scene, I did write down, I was like paying attention to the insane questions that they asked these women. And one question I was like, that's a Drusilla question. And one question I was like, that's a Josh question. The Josh question is, they ask a girl, what kind of man do you hate? And that's a Josh question, because I always want to know what people hate, because I think it says so much about them, and I think it's funny and fun. And sorry if everyone thinks that's too negative, but I think it's like sort of joyous to shit talk Statler and Waldorf style. The question that I was like, what kind of man
do you hate?
I mean, where do you start? There's like so much to hate in the world of men. You know, if I could be, I don't know. I look very, very much forward to a time in 20 years when I'm like no longer a sexual being and I can just garden and putter around. Like that's when I'll be at my happiest. But the question that I was like, this is a Drusilla question, is they ask one of the girls, have you ever seen a Tarkovsky movie? I was like, that's a Drusilla audition question.
Yeah. Because, I mean, yeah.
So I gather that you would not lightly recommend this movie to people.
I would not lightly recommend this movie. I would be very cautious to even recommend this movie to some people. I would, you know, if I'm talking with someone and they are, you know, bopping to the Cannibal Holocaust soundtrack and talking about how much they really appreciate Solo, I'll be like, okay, cool.
Perhaps you would like this movie audition.
Audition.
Sure.
However, I think as casual horror fans, it's not... Audition's discussed very openly alongside like American Werewolf in London and The Thing and...
Well, I think it is a classic. I think it's earned its place in the great horror pantheon.
It certainly has.
And we had to do a movie like this at some point also. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh yeah, we absolutely had to do a torture porn movie, and this is like the art house torture porn movie.
Yeah.
Outside of, I guess, Salo. So like, yeah, there is an audience that this movie is exactly made for.
Right.
And then there is me. And so again, like I really, really, really appreciate the filmmaking talent that Miike brings to this and the artistry that he brings to the storytelling. And I think it elevates the movie. No, oh God, I hate that.
Oh no! I'm so
elevates.
Sorry. We should have like a buzzer sound or something.
But it heightens the horror. It makes it scarier.
Yeah. It
puts you in the character a bit more. It feels almost Clive Barker in the way that it's executed in the kind of nightmare sequence. And that is both a very trashy and high art illusion. So Bada Bing.
That sweet spot.
So I think it really does fit that. But I am mad that I had to watch it. And I don't think I'll be watching it again anytime soon. And whatever remaining years I have on this earth. So I'm going, you know what? I'm glad I finally finished it. I'm glad that I can finally say that I watched Audition in full. And I'll never do so again.
That's fair. I can appreciate that. Well, listen, let's play a really quick version of Have They Seen It with Audition, the game where we speculate whether or not notable figures have seen the movie and whether they like it or not. I can go first. This is somebody who has gotten cooler and cooler and cooler the older she gets. in my estimation, and that is Miley Cyrus. Has Miley Cyrus seen Audition? If so, what do you think she thinks of it?
I don't know. I mean, God, I'm trying to pinpoint her age really quickly.
She's under 30, but not by much.
Okay, I think she's older 29. Than me, but like by a little bit.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that around the time that Hannah Montana ended, when she was like getting into weed and like bisexuality.
Yeah.
As we all do when our TV show ends. That maybe she was at a party and someone was like, you need to see Audition. And like a couple weeks later, she like rented it or like was given a copy and finally watched it. But I also don't think she finished it.
Do you know what? That reminded me that when I was in my early 20s in New York, maybe mid 20s at this point, I was at a club having table service with Hilary Duff because my friend's brother had worked with her. And she was underage at the time. She's like a teenager. But if you're famous, you can get in anywhere. So we're having vodka at this fancy club, and it's the Smiths night, Morrissey night at this club. And so it was all Smiths music and Morrissey. And Hilary Duff kept being, and she was like trying to, I think, cultivate more of a sophisticated indie sort of persona for herself. And so she kept asking, like, who is this? And we'd be like, Hilary, it's the Smiths. Every time, like all night, like, wow, this is really good. What is it? Hilary, it's Morrissey. Just like the whole night. That's what you made me think of. Sorry, hit me with a have they seen it?
Well, I had one in mind, but now I just want to know if Morrissey has seen the Audition.
Oh, yeah, I think he has. I think he feels like sort of neutral towards it. I don't know. Morrissey will never be canceled for me. I know that his politics are shitty, but he's an old man, and sometimes they get, to turn a phrase, grandfathered in for me. And he's very pompous and annoying as a person, but I love the Smiths very much. And yeah, I think he's seen Audition.
I mean, yeah, I certainly love Queen is Dead, and I certainly love the Smiths. But I agree with Sparks on their song "Lighten Up Morrissey." Yeah, I'm sure he's seen it. I'm sure he went to like a Glasgow film festival or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, what's this Audition thing I hear so much about? I'm sure the most horrifying thing in that movie for him was the dog's death. So,
yeah,
you know what? At least he and I can relate on that.
DoesTheDogDie.com. You're their biggest fan. So what are we watching next week?
Next week, we have a very special guest, and she has brought with her a very female-centric
another extremist movie.
Extreme film, but one that I adore, Julia Ducournau's Raw.
Yay! Okay, so Drusilla, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at HydeSister, and at my website, sisterhydedesign.com. And what about you, Josh? Where are you lurking at these days?
I'm Joshua Conkle on Instagram and Twitter, and you can also follow the show on Instagram and Twitter, bloodhousepod@gmail.com, and just bloodhousepod, sorry, on socials, and then you can email us at bloodhousepod.com. And thank you so much, and we'll see you next week for Raw.
Happy flossing.